OMG and Friends, where we talk about the things that you think about and some things you don't. I am your host, OMG, along with my co-host and special guest studio co-host,
Gloria.
Carla.
And Daydream.
As always, family, we'd like to thank you for joining us, and we ask that you please join in on the conversation, where your thoughts, your comments, and your opinions help drive the conversation. And many of you may recall Gloria Benedict was here on another show. So can I give a synoptic overview of?
Sure, I'd be glad to do so. I was here. I was a guest host. We talked about acting. I'm an acting coach and a local actor in town. Started out in radio and worked in the industry for quite some time. And now I'm really focusing on teaching, coaching, and auditioning as much as I can. We also touched on education and the importance of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Carla? Cortinas, did I get it right?
Yes.
Carla Cortinas, okay.
Hi, I'm Carla Cortinas. I'm the author of In the Hands of God.
Let me show you.
There we go.
It's a 30-day devotional book. I'm a preschool teacher. This is my first time here at the Bridge of Light, and I am so excited about the topic and on toxic mothers.
Well, thank both of you ladies for joining us. Now, as always, guys, our topic, we usually have a discussion about our topic. And as you noticed, last week we talked about absent fathers and the effects that it had on their children, both boys and girls. Today we're going to talk about toxic mothers, because that's a whole nother thing. You know, mothers are revered in a different way than fathers. And so for the most part, by now we've all heard about the dangers of toxic people in our lives and how they can make you sick, stress you out, and hold you back. Sometimes these toxic people can include your mother. You dread family get-togethers. A phone call from mom is usually an emotional minefield, and you consciously opt against having children of your own because parenthood sucked for her and she made it suck for you. And as a result of this toxicity, the whole household is in disarray. You know, there are many layers to a toxic mother and many reasons she is toxic for her children, especially daughters. The relationship with our mother, or the person who represents mom to us, is one of the most defining ones in our life. Our self-image and our view of others and the world are closely tied to this relationship, and if it is toxic, it can put serious obstacles in our life's path. Our core values is a learned behavior that is inextricably tied again to our mothers. This is not an attempt to demonize mothers, nor is it meant to fuel feelings of hatred towards your own. However, one cannot underestimate the extent of its effect on you. Let's discuss some of the things that makes mothers toxic, such as narcissism, constantly being critical, control freak, master guilt tripper, and manipulator, to name a few. The list is expansive. Let's explore them, ladies, and let's talk about how toxic mothers and their effects on their children.
But what she's doing is she is actually stressing disappointment and expecting perfection. And she also likes to be the center of attention.
That is absolutely right. All the research that I've read says that. Yeah.
Hello. And it's really sad because when her children pull away, she becomes very upset and tries to control them more. And
because they're not doing their job.
Yes. They sometimes feel like, you know, if they don't come under the mother's thumb, then she has nothing to do with them if she can't control their lives.
And by being so controlling, she's not understanding boundaries. I think that's one of the biggest issues, is children then need to find their own way. And some of them, it's very, very hard to break away and form those boundaries. Because they love their mother.
Their mom. Yeah. Mom, that's what it is. What do you think about that, Carla?
Well, I think that since I work with, children, mothers can, just like hoover.
Smother.
Suffocate over the kids, and exactly, so
right.
They don't have the freedom to do what they need to do.
Right.
The children, they don't have that freedom to be children.
Yeah,
or to be their own person.
Exactly.
Right. I think that's the problem. And as Gloria had mentioned in some of the readings that I've had, that they go anywhere from the behavior of a control freak and constantly being critical. I personally have a very close friend of mine, and she and her mother, it's one of the most dysfunctional families I have seen. And we all have dysfunction, don't misunderstand me.
I think it's pretty normal.
We've all that's pretty normal, right? Yes. But this particular family, the mom just demeans and berates and talk to her daughters, and they're grown women. I'm talking 40s and 50-year-olds. and their mom is just always, you didn't do this, I sent you to this school, you should have done that, I paid for you to do this, and you look at you, and then they have little nicknames. People can have nicknames for their kids that hurt. All of those things are toxic.
Have they sought counseling? I think counseling does help.
I suggested that, but mothers have egos, big egos. Most parents. I don't need to go to counseling.
It's not me, it's them.
It's them, right?
And the other part to that is counseling, seeking therapy is still looked as a no-no, especially in minority communities.
Yeah.
And we did a show on that. And I can speak firsthand. I'm very grateful that with my niece, because she's got absent father, toxic mother.
Right.
Both, on both sides,
Yeah.
okay? So I'm fortunate enough that, we're a family that realized that, hey, mental health is a big issue. It's a serious issue, and it needs to be looked at. And it's okay to talk to someone else outside of the circle, outside of the nonsense and everything else that's going on, So it is hard, because if even with our family members, to say, I'm so grateful for her therapist, so-and-so, they look like, what? Huh? Well, what happened? Well, it's our issue.
Like, what's so bad?
They don't look at the fact, right? They're not looking at the fact of, hey, there's some serious issues going on, and you're trying to keep this child as healthy as possible. Their first thing is, what?
Yeah.
We don't do that. That's the attitude. So yeah, especially in minority
things have a stigma.
Yeah, I can understand the stigma, but from what little research I did preparing for the show, I think it's important because the child has to break away from that controlling environment.
That's hard to do when somebody has their thumb on you.
Be it somebody at school they can talk to, a teacher, someone like you, someone like that. But or else getting back to boundaries. Joining organizations so that the child, so they're busy. Of course, depends how old the child is too, but old enough to maybe get into football or sports or dance or something, an activity where they're not around the toxic person.
Yeah, but you live with them. It's hard to ignore mom.
But my question is, how did the mothers become toxic?
Well, see, that's a good point, and I was going to go into that a little bit later, but since you took us all the way there, I guess we'll deal with that right now. I personally believe that there might be a correlation between absent fathers that may very well have created toxic mothers.
They drove us to the nut house.
They drove us crazy.
It's a lot of stress.
It's a lot of stress.
It's stress to, like you said, raise a child, period. Okay? And then if you have a healthy, active partner, it's still hard. But when you don't, and then you have a toxic partner, you add everything into the mix, and then life and it's crazy. That's the nicest way to say it. It's crazy.
One of my male friends was the one who said the other day, I think, and he's from Atlanta, he said, I think, again, that it was the absent dad that make for toxic women, because a lot of times they put the responsibility on the mother to be both mother and father. And so she has a lot of stress on her. She's probably working 2 jobs, kids not getting the attention that they need. So you're creating an anxious, aggressive or assertive mom, and that could turn into aggression or passive aggressive because she's tired. Right. I mean, you left everything for her to do. So absent dads, that whole thing can escalate into something, spiral into something way more than just the dad being gone. And I think on that tip, we've got to go to break. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Bridge of Light Radio Network, where conversations lead to real change.
Can you see it?
You are listening to the Bridge.
We talked about that.
Oh,
Yeah.
That we did.
That's toxic too, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
For the college fund, they pay for their kids.
Oh, yeah, the parent scandal, buying off
Yeah,
their
that would bring it
education.
up, but
Yeah,
that
that
is-
is toxic. That's enabling.
And
Absolutely.
remember a few years back when that mom heard one of another girls who were playing volleyball and get her on that team? It was like maybe about 5 years.
I remember
That's
cheerleader.
just like the
I
Texas
remember the cheerleader
cheerleader
one.
Oh, yeah, the
Yeah,
cheerleader
yeah,
one,
yeah.
The Texas
Yeah.
cheerleader one.
That is toxic. So we'll bring that.
Yeah, because that's trying to live through your child.
Right.
Oh, when we come back, okay.
See, y'all get to hear all this conversation. See how we talk? No missteps.
30 seconds.
And when we come back, y'all can give your last names, you two.
Okay.
Since we have stage names. So when y'all do a couple more shows, you'll have stage names.
15 seconds.
Because after she reads, I'll come.
I'm gonna do a quick live read for Sam Houston Race Park.
You're so good.
Stay tuned.
Live racing continues at Sam Houston Race Park in 2019. Live quarter horse racing kicks off on April 12th. That is this weekend. Call 281-807-8700 or go online to shrp.com for more information.
And we are back. You're listening to the All About You show with OMG and Friends. I am your host, OMG, along with my co-host,
Daydream.
Gloria Benedict.
Carla Cortinas.
Okay, and here we are. We got a little accent going on up in there.
Yes. Thank you, ladies. Now, just for those who are out there listening, thank you everyone who's already tuning in on the live Facebook feed. Give us a call here at the studio, 713-789-0096. Comment on the Facebook feeds. We will respond to you. We will read them out loud. If you want to stay anonymous, tell us. Don't mention your name. Whatever you want, we'll do. This is all about you. And thank you, ladies, for joining us in the rotating chair.
Absolutely.
We love it. We love it when our listeners want to join
Absolutely,
in.
want to come in, and that invitation is still extended to you as well, our listeners. You know, again, we were talking about how men not stepping up to do what they do put an enormous amount of pressure on a woman, and I think that coupled with, I think there's a lot of mental illness out here too. You don't know who's bipolar. I mean, you know, some of these mothers. I mean, I'm serious.
It's a lot.
It's a lot going on. We did a show on mental illness, and so it is there.
I really feel it's a lot more prevalent than what we've given attention
Absolutely
to.
it is.
We've just learned how to mask it very well.
Yeah, because we did a show on that. There's a lot of people out here that's just not functioning in normal capacity. But part of the toxic mother, we had somebody in our studio mention to us the parent scandal with the college admissions.
Right.
That is actually toxic.
Absolutely.
Because you're not helping your child get where they need to go from an emotional standpoint,
Then you're not being
socialization.
honest.
They're not being honest. They're not being taught. You know,
Exactly.
so there's no integrity. You're teaching them nothing, and then you want to put them out there to be among the rest of us.
You're saying you're not good enough?
That's exactly. You're not good enough to make it on your own. I have to write a check to get you somewhere.
And from what I've seen in the newscasts, that you know, a lot of the kids, this was something the parents wanted, not necessarily the children.
Well, see, that's basically
It's
this
their
is living
expectations.
vicariously.
Yes.
Through your
again,
child.
Through your child.
Exactly.
So,
That reminds me of stage moms.
yes, we talk
You know, the
about- yeah.
stereotypical stage mom.
Yeah.
Oh, I
You
see
know,
them.
they want this,
Oh, yeah.
they want that,
Yeah.
and it's just like, well, I get what you want, but what does
Yeah.
Susie want? What does little Johnny want?
It's like the moms, they want to live their dream
through their child,
their children.
especially if they
Right, they're trying to start
especially if
over.
they especially if they miss the opportunity to become actor, dancer,
Exactly.
violinist, or whatever. So they decide to make their child do the things that they didn't like.
Yeah, I never forced my children to be actors. I had one child that loved it, others that did not. They wanted to be
That's still-
musicians or whatever, and whatever they wanted to do, that was
And
their
that's the way it
talent.
should be. You know,
Absolutely.
kids should be allowed to be exactly who they need to be. There's something else. You have the constantly critical mother. Do we have that video we were going to show earlier about how this whole thing starts? Y'all haven't seen this video. I saw it. Somebody sent it to me from DC today, and it was odd that it's the topic that we're talking, but to see this woman beat this little girl,
Mm.
I mean, it happens very quickly, so it's not something we have to watch. I guess you guys can see the screen there, but can we wind that video
Oh, I
down?
saw.
Did you see that?
Oh my
Heartbreaking.
gosh.
Look at this.
She's a
Oh, I haven't
baby.
seen that.
Oh, you haven't waited. Oh my gosh.
She's cleaning.
She threw up.
The little baby.
The baby threw up.
Oh, it's heartbreaking.
Now, see, when you initially look at this,
You
you're
think
saying,
it's-
okay,
she's
you're
teaching
teaching
her
how to
how
have
to-
chores,
that's what we all-
responsibilities.
that's what we all-
Okay, nothing out of nothing out of the
ordinary.
ordinary.
And she's after school because it's not her room with all those tables and chairs there. But wait till she goes and get this and come back and start smacking this child. I don't know whose child this is, but somebody has a very strong lawsuit here. But we're showing you this, guys, because toxic moms, teachers, whatever it is in the Austin. She gave her a tissue to wipe her face.
Oh my gosh.
Oh no.
Now you all look at this. This is how look at that.
Oh Lord, that's terrible.
Okay, that's enough. I can't take too much of that.
prefer
But
not to.
that's how a toxic mother starts. And sometimes it's not necessarily your mom, it could be somebody else's mom being toxic in such a way as that. But it's just scary to realize we have those types of situations. And as you know,
But that's actually very common.
it probably
Think about
is.
it. The only reason that we're seeing
It's 'cause
this
everybody
so
has
much
cameras,
now is
everything
because
is
there's
being
cameras everywhere. Everything's Wi-Fi. Everything's phone accessible.
Yes.
Um,
So it's being brought to the forefront, whereas before we didn't know.
Whereas before it was he said, she said, and you know, a little child exaggerates and likes to tell stories versus a responsible adult.
That little girl couldn't be any more than 4. At best.
There's so many videos that I've seen that I'm like, what could a
2 or
10-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 1-year-old, an infant possibly do to warrant that type of reaction?
Well, that's what
from an
them,
adult.
that's what them. You know,
Yeah, but
it's
they're taking it out on the
it's
child.
something going on. It's their behavior.
That's why I said we
Exactly.
bipolar. You could be bipolar.
Yes, and thank you so
I
much,
think I'm
Jason
playing.
Jackson, tuning in on the live Facebook feed. He saw the video also and says, "What's wrong is the person recording it." Absolutely. How do you
Yes.
sit there
And take that
and
not
take that
do
and watch it
anything.
and be
Not
okay
doing
with
anything.
it?
Very good, Jason.
Exactly.
We appreciate that comment. That's absolutely true. It's no different than
Exactly.
when accidents and atrocities happen right in your face. Rather than people going to help, we'll stop and take pictures and run the whole video, not ever extending the help to the
Exactly.
people that
Could
are.
it quite possibly be there was a camera in the room? It was just recording.
Not the way that camera's moving. No, ma'am.
Yeah,
And
you're
then
right.
too, they
No.
probably would not have released that. I mean, that's not something a daycare, even if they.
Oh my God.
Well, if there was actual charges, criminal charges, that would have been
Then that would
the
have been
police
part of
department.
it. That
That
would have been part of
agency
it.
would have grabbed it, and it
Lock
could have
it
been up to
down.
the attorneys and everything to
And
release
that
that.
could have
So
made it onto Facebook and all that.
absolutely.
Really?
But the way that camera's moving, that
When
was a
someone is
person
videoing.
there. That was
Are
a you or
And
me.
then they
Serious?
might not even know
Watching
that the person was
Was
behind.
videoing them.
Exactly.
That's
Oh,
scary.
Exactly.
I tell you
Because
what,
no one in their right minds would just
When you're in
you
that type
know,
of zone,
Just,
Exactly.
just keep slapping a baby's
Yeah.
head like that, you know? Now, as you
Nope.
know, any negative behavior that causes emotional damage or contaminates the way a person sees himself or herself is toxic. A toxic mother treats her children in such a way as to make those children doubt and question their importance, their worth, and that they are deserving of love, approval, and validation. That's a lot for a mother to carry, for a child to not develop any of these things on
to
their
throw
own.
onto a child.
Yes, it is. It absolutely is.
It's-
I'm just,
I
it makes
have
you sad.
very sad. I have a very first-hand account of that
Really?
with my niece. You know, because like I said, she's got both. Absent father, toxic
and
mother.
toxic mother.
You know, my parents and I, my family and I, we know why my niece is here. We're here because her job was to keep her mother and her father's relationship together. That's what
one
her
of
job
those.
was for. That was the point of my niece
of having a
being here.
baby.
Okay.
Wow. A lot of
Um,
ladies make that mistake.
Absolutely. And evidently she didn't do that job. Well, that's not what she was here for. That's not what she was put on this earth for.
Right.
You know? So she sees that, she lives that every day when mommy doesn't come to pick her up the way she's supposed to, when daddy doesn't make any effort, doesn't respond, that type of thing. And so it's just like, well, you know, even there's been certain points where my niece has said, and she's told my mom, she's like, you know, Tita, if my mom would have just given me that much bit of
You told us that
attention,
last week.
I really feel like it would have made a difference. She's not even 10
It's sad that
She
they
should
know
know
those
that.
types of feelings. Yes, that they even know
at
that.
all.
Wow. You know, they put their, okay, again, parents that have toxic behavior such as the mothers, but do you think that mother's toxicity is more detrimental for girls or equally detrimental for boys as well?
I'm gonna go with more on the female side, but it definitely affects the dudes.
You
Yeah.
think so?
I think it affects both, but I would say probably female because we learn to be
Feminine and
feminine,
mother nurturing
mother.
thing. But if your mother's not nurturing,
Right.
That's
So
right.
we're the ones who continue that cycle. It exacerbates. Whereas with the males, you know, it's you know, you marry your father, you marry your mother.
yes.
So when you have that guy who's in that toxic relationship, who's in that abusive relationship, because yes, men can get abused, mentally, physically, emotionally, the
Yes.
same way that
The same
females
way a
can.
woman can, yeah.
Okay, it, you know, they don't know what to look for in a mother, because I always, in hindsight, right? Always 2020. So, you know, if you think about it, who we date and who we go towards, gravitate towards, that's who we need to think about. Do I want to be stuck with this person for the rest of my life? Do I want to raise a family with this person? Do I want to have a child with this person?
Grow?
Right.
Just because
so
you get older,
if we thought of if we thought about that every time we got into an intimate or a physical relationship to someone, I think half of those people would have made the cut. At least half. You know, if we put it in that perspective.
Yes.
Because you always have to think about, okay, well, if I have some sort of contact or some sort of intimate relationship with this person, there is a probability that I'm going to have a family with this person, whether I like it or not. So I really feel if we would just look at it that way, that would eliminate a lot. You know, it would help out a lot. But you know, when there's a guy who doesn't understand that, and well, she's cool, she's this, she's that, whatever. Well, she's better than what my mama treated me like. That doesn't mean that it's better.
No.
You know, it definitely doesn't mean
but
that it's
people
better.
start dating very young, and they don't have the maturity. They're
They
not
know
thinking
nothing.
those things.
No.
Why are 12 and 13-year-olds dating?
I don't know.
They're young,
Why?
They're young mothers that are 25
Exactly.
are out there dating and in their
Grandmas
30s.
who are 32.
That's exactly right.
Exactly.
So they're seeing all this. So there's no control or boundaries, if you will, because they don't see it in the home. You know,
I was gonna say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say
I finally
that.
got you back. I got you back. But I
They,
didn't see it.
they don't see a lot of our children in today's society does not see mom and dad,
And they don't see love.
and they don't see love.
That's the main thing. They don't see love.
They
Love,
see a lot of control,
confusion.
a lot of confusion,
Mhm.
a lot of dominance, whether it's the man or the female. You know, they see all of that.
Kids
And
see
they
way
take
too much
all
stuff
of
now.
that in consideration, you know. And it's like, you know, I don't know if I want to, you know, go over, because this is my second marriage. My husband and I have been married for 21 years. Thank you.
Right.
My first marriage only lasted for 7. He was very controlling man, you know, and so I had to.
But it was a very toxic relationship that you were
Exactly.
smart enough to get out of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, because I was raised by a smart mom.
I was going to say, you had a strong foundation.
I had a
Absolutely.
strong
That's the
foundation.
difference.
And that's what our children don't have.
They don't have any of that.
They don't have
any
a
of that.
strong foundation.
I don't know that we can offer that now. They don't need it. They act like they don't need us now because they've got family out in the street
Mm-hmm.
and they're gangs and stuff like that. So they're giving into these other forces.
And a
out
lot
there.
of these moms have lost their identity. It always starts with identity. A lot of our moms
That's true.
have lost their identity.
In order
They
to
are
be
very
toxic,
insecure.
you have to be a little
Yes,
bit
exactly.
insecure. I can see that.
Mhm.
Yeah, elaborate on that a little bit more. You're right. I disagree with you that I believe that they get so caught up in who they are and their egos, and
Right.
they've lost themselves. And so when you're lost, it's very easy to misguide somebody else.
Exactly.
And that's what you do to children.
Exactly.
Wow. I think men handle, I don't know if they can just shut it down, cut it off, and just walk off. See, women, we're going to internalize
Mm-hmm.
the toxicity. I think a boy, child, will kind of rule it out. I mean, but it's still mom, of course. You say something about mom, them's fighting words. When you start to,
absolutely.
Exactly.
When you
Male or
start your
female,
mama,
right?
it's fighting words, okay? You can't get out with
I
that.
think boys they become rebellious though. I mean,
That's what I mean. They'll just get
yeah.
lost, get out of your way, and be gone, and stay out all night.
Yeah.
So their way of coping is way different than how a girl has to cope. And there is something called the malicious mother syndrome. And they're supposed to be starting some sort of organization where toxic mothers have, I guess, ruined adult children. So that's probably where half the therapy comes in from. I'm serious.
They always blame the mama.
I know it's always the mama. You don't do it's that mom.
It's the mama. The
That's-
mama did.
And what's really sad is that the fact that we put that type of pressure
On the mother.
on a mother to
That's
begin
right.
with. Okay,
If a son
as
turns
a
out-
female, we've already gone through, we've created and raised
We
and
work with
nurtured
God. We're with God's
this
right hand.
child, this being, and then we go through the physical pain of having this child,
Right.
and now we have to go through the physical, emotional, and mental pain of raising this child, and we're held more accountable than what daddy is. Because, well, dad's got to be the provider. Okay, well, mama can be the provider also, but daddy has just as much responsibility.
He should.
Yes.
And just as much effect as what mommy does, whether he's in the home 24/7 or not. Mommy's not in the home 24/7, especially not nowadays.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
So I don't understand why we continue to hold the female more accountable.
Did we do that on our own because we like having control? You know, women love. I mean, Adam and Eve. You know how Eve was.
I guess, because
Y'all
that's our
gave her
child.
rules.
There's
She's
no
like-
question about this. Is
Okay,
my
so this is
child.
us. That's what I'm saying.
There's no
So
question
this
at
is
all.
us that makes it different.
They were physically ripped,
We will
came
fight.
out of my
Yes,
my
we
body,
will
you know.
fight.
So there's no question about that. And I went through all this pain and
This is-
agony
right.
to make sure that you had every
A
breath
healthy- yeah,
in your lung that you have.
Right.
So maybe that's why we do it. I don't know. I'm not a mother. I'm not a mother at
Well,
all.
with your niece,
But
you pretty
I
much
still
are.
get it
Pretty
and
much
I
are.
understand it, and I don't understand. I'm like, well, when dad was working 3 jobs, mom was working 4 jobs because she had those 3 jobs outside the home, and then she had us inside the home that she was still caring
And that's the
for.
job.
So why is it that she's held more responsible than what my dad was?
Well, I think possibly because isn't there an old saying, mother's baby, father's maybe?
Yes.
So a woman takes full possession of that child. A father may or may not, because he may not know. If
Well,
the
yeah,
kid
because
is
we
like
knew
it.
this child
We- I
before
mean,
they
you-
were a child.
But you carried this kid.
We
you know what I mean?
felt every
You felt
single
every kick,
emotion, every
move.
physical.
So, like I said, those fighting words when you start talking about, mama and that sort of thing. So, yeah, I think we've built a garrison around us to where you can't really touch us. And so, maybe the toxicity of a mom, like I said, is quite, maybe twice the devastation of perhaps an absent father. Because sometimes out of sight, out of mind.
Right.
But a mom is in your face all day, all the time.
night.
All night, exactly right. We have different behaviors. Now, they put this is indigenous of a toxic mom. When she puts her own feelings and needs first, and she has a self-centered focus and a need to be the center of attention.
That's what I
Like what
said.
you said.
Center of attention.
And
Absolutely.
also there's another, the parent fails to provide a reliable, safe, secure, and supportive home environment due to their own erratic, unpredictable, and scary behavior, which is true. Like I said, again, I think mental illness, I think schizophrenia, I think psychopath, I think all these things, because we didn't have names for all these things years ago, And I think a lot of people were bipolar years ago. We just called them slow.
Years ago,
They're
it was
special.
They were
different.
special.
They've been touched.
It was-
Yeah.
It was
It's
That's a
challenge.
southern thing.
It's challenge.
Yeah, that's a
It
southern
was
thing. They've been
very
touched.
different years ago. Time has changed.
Different in
now.
what way? How do you mean?
As of I was growing up, I'm 53, and I have 7 sisters and 3 brothers. It's 11 of us
Wow.
all, and my dad.
Mom didn't have time to be toxic. Mom
No.
was-
No,
She
she was.
Mom didn't even
she
have her
was
own thoughts
busy.
before they-
The older,
11 children.
the older
Children
was
would take care of the younger ones. That's really how that works.
Exactly, and my dad was there. My dad was there with my mom, so we never.
So you didn't experience either one of those issues,
No.
absent father or toxic mother.
No,
That's a blessing.
Are you sure?
That's what that is.
I'm
That's a
positive.
blessing.
And the reason why I say that is because I definitely didn't have an absent father. Definitely, I don't feel that I had a toxic mother. I feel like there were some things that were implemented because of history.
right.
I will say, and I don't mean any disrespect, Mom, at all, but I really feel that she had a toxic mother, which means that I had a toxic grandmother,
Right.
which means that
It's in
came
line.
into
a
play
generation.
a little bit.
Yeah,
And the
we
reason,
all have some of that.
yeah, absolutely. So that's why I say, are you sure? Because obviously hindsight, we
Right.
see that, and I'm so grateful that we were fortunate enough that my mom was college educated while she was raising us.
Right.
Because My mom ended up going to school full time. Just a little history. She ended up going into school full time when my brother and I were already in middle school. My brother and I are just 1 year apart, 14 months apart. And then our younger sister, she's 5 years younger than me.
Mm-hmm.
So by that time, we're already teenage years. There's a lot of development that's already happened, right? So it was during that time that I noticed that my mom said different things or changed things.
Right.
Because my grandma was there's no such thing as friends. Trust nobody, not even your family.
Wow.
You only trust yourself. There's this, there's that. Just very negative.
Very cynical.
Right. Very cynical, very negative. And when we were little, it was always that same thing. We didn't have friends. People never came over to the house, even when we were in high school. And only in college is when it started that, we were, hey, I'm bringing so-and-so over, or it was the holidays. You always have that stray, what we call that stray. If we have any strays come over so I can make extra food, that type of thing. But I noticed in middle school when my mom went into school full-time, that's when she started changing and switching some things up. She's like, well, it's not that there's no such thing as friends, it's that not everyone is your friend.
Right.
You have to be real careful about what circle you keep, that type of thing. Whereas before it was no, and no one calls the house, and no one knows this, and no one knows that. And
see, I like that because I think right now we become too open.
Now, yes.
Business.
Now, yes, I will agree with that, and I've reverted
back
to a lot of that.
So you have to go back.
Yeah,
and
absolutely. I've reverted back to a lot of that, but even when we were talking about the show Faking It, positivity,
and
negativity, cynical, that type of thing. I really feel that I know I'm a very cynical person, but I look at it as I'm being realistic.
Right.
I'm preparing myself for the worst. Expect the best, prepare yourself for the worst type of thing.
Yeah.
But I do err on this negative side.
Right.
And I really feel a lot of that was because of how we were initially raised. And that was due to how my mom was raised with my grandma and my grandfather. And they grew up during the time of racism and prejudice, because even then,
it's now.
yeah, absolutely. My mom's in her 50s, but she still grew up knowing that she's in the B group, in the slow group or the dumb group because she's brown, not because of her capability, but just the fact of what her last name was, but because she can speak Spanish and because her parents don't speak English.
Right.
It was just automatic. So a lot of that goes into play.
The world is toxic. I don't think it's just toxic mothers. And if we do have a lot of toxicity, like I said, it has a lot of levels. And there are a lot of reasons for having this toxic behavior. And as you mentioned earlier, Gloria, the need that the parent has to be seen as, the child has to be successful, because in their eyes, this is a positive reflection upon them. Right.
And if a child fails to succeed, the parent feels acute shame and punishes the child for giving them such bad feelings.
Mm-hmm.
However, the successful child must not cast a shadow over the brilliance of the toxic parent.
Right.
Really, that's exactly the way I was trying to explain it. It's unfortunate though. It's unfortunate. And again, I go back to breaking away, boundaries, counseling. It can get better, especially as an adult. Those people can break away and establish the rules. Maybe I won't answer the phone when she calls. Maybe I won't only see her once in a while. But boundaries.
Nobody leaves unscathed.
No, but I think with time things can get better. I am a very positive person.
We can put those creams. There's certain creams that will help take away those scars. At least reduce it. And I think that's what you're talking about. Absolutely.
I like to believe that there's good out there, and I do believe. I always say life is a series of lives. Every 10 years you're doing something different. And as long as you're still breathing, you can change.
Get up,
I get up every morning, do my prayers, my yoga, whatever, and have my coffee, walk my big dog, and I want to have a good day. Yeah, absolutely.
You have to kind of set the tone for that. And also, if a child is favored and appreciated by anyone, the toxic mother becomes jealous and envious, even violent towards the child for having beauty or for having talent. Now, you've probably seen that on your end. Can you tell us a little bit about the stage mom who...
I have seen stage moms being in the acting and modeling industry. I remember a little girl, a very thin person, who was doing laxatives to get thinner and thinner and thinner, and the mother, of course, wanted the child to be in modeling. It wasn't going to happen. It really just wasn't going to happen. And the child was ill. I mean, that's not healthy. It's not healthy. No, not healthy at all. So, you see it. Is it right? No, it's terribly wrong.
And you probably can't say anything
No,
in a
you can't.
situation like that.
You know, it's hard. You
Yeah,
can't-
because I think about the John Bonet, the little girl, because I used to
Yes.
judge beauty pageants for
I've
children.
done that before.
And I've done
Yeah,
beauty pageant,
yeah,
Miss
yeah,
Black Houston
yeah.
pageant years ago. And so you'd be surprised at how these parents just grill these kids until they're almost in tears.
Wow.
You know,
Exactly.
go on
Sucking
stage,
the fun
suck
out
it
of
up, right? Yeah, just taking the life out of
Yeah.
the kid, you know. And also, if a child is objectified and seen as something that can be useful to support the toxic mother emotionally and practically, and perhaps in later years financially, then she's going to exercise and implement control over that situation. I've read in some of these documents that parents will even sabotage your dates.
Mm.
You know, they'll go through your bill. You know, even when you're grown, they'll come visit you. Then they go
Yeah.
through your bills and, well, Carla, why do you have this bill here? Well, why are you in my stuff?
I know,
I'm just
right?
saying, but
First of all, there's some respect.
right, but, see,
Respect.
but I don't think a toxic mother, again, she doesn't have the boundaries. So
No.
she goes into your clothes, start digging through your clothes. She goes into your cabinets. She changes stuff in your refrigerator, throws stuff away.
But that's up to you.
But see,
As an adult
but
and
if
as
you've
a
been
person.
if you've been raised in a toxic environment, I can't see you. A lot of people won't challenge their mom. You know,
See, I get that because for me, there's that fine line between I'm an adult,
I'm
you
grown.
need to learn how to respect
Respect
me
me.
versus you're my mom
Yeah.
and I'm not trying to disrespect you. So especially I feel in the Latin community. You know, oh man.
That bad.
I really, it's a super fine line for me. But you know, it's trial and error.
Yeah.
You know, I know, especially with me, I can admit that. I know it's trial and error. There's been some points where I felt like I was being an adult and just trying to set my boundaries. And then, you know, in hindsight, it was, you know what, I was disrespectful. You know, so we've got to learn, you know, but it's super hard.
But I believe
that's your mom.
Sometimes they won't, being, you know, in a toxic mother relationship, when the child is grown up, sometimes they're not out of that.
As I said, they're still trained under the
relationship.
same
Right,
jurisdiction
they
that the
still
parent.
under control
Right.
of the parent, and
Well, one of the
and
things
you,
I
and you
read.
wonder why pressure, you know.
Stress and
Yeah.
all that kicks in.
Yeah.
Well, that is one of the things that I read was not being able to stand up for yourself,
That's
to being
it.
afraid.
Yeah, because your mom, you don't want to challenge that. You don't
Right.
want to, because you know if you go there, she's going to tell you, I gave you life, and I'll
I'll
take
tell
it.
you that.
Everybody in America's going to that. Well,
Exactly.
Thank you, Bill
Parent will take you right on out of here.
I bought you here.
And I think it's time for us to go to break right now.
Oh, we
In
got
2
2
minutes?
minutes.
Okay. But at any rate, we wanted to thank Gloria Benedict for coming in and sharing her answers and opinions with us. She has to go teach an acting
I
class.
do.
So for those of you interested in signing up for an acting class, give them some information, Ms. Gloria. and we're out the
Well,
door.
we can share that with you. We can share that with you on Facebook.
On Facebook, okay.
I'm actually teaching at the Neil Hamill Center tonight.
Okay.
So we have classes all the time, Saturdays and
My daughter
Wednesday
went to
nights.
Mayo Hill.
Well, there's history
Was it
there.
Mayo Hill?
It
Yeah.
was Mayo Hill.
My daughter went to Mayo Hill. She was
And
a
the
young
two
girl.
sisters have since passed on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're quite old.
Oh, okay.
It was actually picked up then by Neil Hamill, and now it's owned by the Shell family.
Okay.
So I
Because
am.
my daughter, I used to drive
Yes,
Drive
yes,
Forest,
yes.
so near close to Voss, and I went there because I've always believed in charm schools and
Mhm.
certain amount of acting just for voice projection and inflections and all this other stuff. I always thought it was something to do. And my daughter ended up with very little, exposure other than Mayo Hill, going to a competition and actually winning Miss Photogenic out of 600 women. She was 16.
Wonderful.
And so,
Oh,
and
go
so,
ahead,
yeah,
Gina.
Miss Jill, yeah, so it taught her how to walk, the whole
Yes,
etiquette
the sisters were wonderful.
thing. Because I remember
They have
this is
passed
about
on.
20 years ago.
I'm Italian descent. They were Italian, so we kind of bonded in the very beginning. And that's how I started
Well, you
teaching.
have to bring pasta next time you come. But thank
Oh,
you
okay.
for staying with
All
us
right.
today.
It was
as
a
long.
pleasure.
Yeah,
Thank you for
thank you
having
so much,
me.
Gloria. We really
Anytime. I tell
appreciate
you, the rotating chair is always open to you.
It's
Anytime you
it's
have
really
time.
fun. It's fun, but I better sign off though.
Okay.
Okay.
And I think we have to go to break now while our friend is leaving.
We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Bridge of Light Radio Network, where conversations lead to real change.
Address the conversations that have been going on.
Okay, yeah.
There was some back and forth
Was it?
that was going on, yeah. So
It was good. Good to see you.
That's genuine.
Oh, I know. I do. So where we going?
Yours?
If you want, while we're on break, you want to move closer this way?
Okay,
So
so
we
sure.
have space.
So you have what you're gonna move to the end of the show?
Yes.
We'll let you know. So we'll go this one.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lord.
Thank you.
What?
The topic. It's the whole book.
Yeah. You know, you people most of you don't talk about this. Yeah. See, if you're concerned about what the Kardashians are doing and what everybody in Cardi B is doing, their lives are pretty well squared away. They have money.
30 seconds.
This is through the page. So I'm looking at the live feed.
15 seconds.
Who watched, who joined in. Oh, wow. Yeah. So there's that. I'm also following on my personal phone for my personal page because I've shared it there. And those comments will not show up on the page. So there's different comments going on. So, yeah.
Square biz, that's what we talk. Talk square biz. That's the purpose of the song.
all right, and I want to thank everyone. Welcome back, everyone who's tuning in. Our topic today is toxic mothers. Thank you, everyone who's been following along on the Facebook feed. I'm sorry I haven't been able to get to every single one of the comments, but thank you, Jason, and also Diana. Jason says, Jason, you're absolutely welcome to join our rotating chair. Please do.
Yes.
His comment was, okay, so I need that same panel, and let's have a show with a male counterpart. Me, absolutely. You're more than welcome to come. Give us a shout out. Contact us on our Facebook page at OMG and Friends, on Twitter, on our website, www.allaboutyoushow.info, and that's all about you, the letter U, show.info. Anyone is welcome to the rotating chair. Again, our show is called All About You, so it is definitely what your topics are, what your interests are, what your thoughts are. So we definitely want to know what's going on. And Diana says, what's worse, growing up without a mother or having a toxic mother?
Ooh, I think it's worse to have a toxic mother, because you're not getting any nurturing from that. You're not getting any sort of emotional support. And again, kids are being oppressed and suppressed, and they're not going to grow mentally and physically correct.
See, and I feel it is worse. The same.
I think an aunt or grandmother, some other person can step in.
Mm-hmm.
If you have no mom at all.
Right.
But to have one that wears you down, beats you down,
right,
beats you up.
Right.
I mean, yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, see, and I agree. I kind of think of it kind of like in the service industry. Do you want an untrained person you can start fresh with and show them the right way? Or do you want someone who's got all kinds of things that you need to fix?
And change.
I would fix and change. I would much rather that fresh new person.
Yes.
So I feel that having a toxic mother is worse than having no mother at all. At least let that child have an ideal of what it was and what it could have been versus what it is.
Yes. Because you can't pull back from that once that's been implemented in your life and executed.
Exactly.
I don't think you can pull that back. And also, parents feel burdened by the child and will belittle children. You've heard people call their kids flat nose, big feet, big,
Yes.
all these names that some kind of way carries over into school. Somebody hears it or overhear it. It's all of that is belittling. And I don't know what a parent gets from talking derogatorily to their children. It doesn't. I believe in edification. I believe in building up.
Right.
And putting people out there and motivating them and educating them and to edify them. So to tear somebody down, I can't understand. That has to tear you down because that's where your head is if you are doing this. just like the lady that was beating up on that little child.
Right.
There's something wrong with her. Somebody did that to her, possibly.
Exactly. And that's
And-
why
and that's
they're
why
able
she's-
to do
That's
it
why she's
to
so
their own
aggressive with a
children.
child.
Yes.
Yeah, you know.
Yes.
Wow.
I see that, and I've seen other videos, and I just don't
I've
get how you can treat a child that way. But
Some people just don't have a
I-
heart, or they were raised
not
by
at all,
toxic
and
love.
I
That's
don't-
all they know.
I don't get how you brought this child into this world. You went through all that you went through for this child, and you bully them, you break them down that way. Because I know when my niece came home and I found out she was being bullied at school, I know the rage that I
Oh
felt
yeah.
from another child,
Right.
from another child treating her that
Right.
way, much less an adult,
An adult,
or the
right.
person who's supposed to love them unconditionally.
Right.
Yeah. Well, there's so many false signals out here. Kids don't know what to believe. But again, it's all about love, and that's all they need. And you give them other things that's not in the equation,
Right.
that makes for an unhealthy adult. It turns into an unhealthy adult, is what that turns
It does.
into. And also, parents are distracted and disinterested in what their child has to say, and so the child gives up trying to connect. So another time when kids want to come up and tell you, Mom, look at this is what I did at school today, and I'm busy. You got the cell phone in front of you, so you don't have time for your kid.
Right.
All of these things it makes for a toxic behavior, because your kids now will go out and find somebody else to talk to. They'll
Right.
talk to somebody around the corner, smoking a joint,
Right.
and talking about it, rather
Exactly.
than coming home and telling you, because you would not listen
Mhm.
when they came to you.
Or
Right.
showing them that that's okay if you're not getting this love and affection here at home. You, can
get
find it over
you
here on
find
the
all that
street
here.
Yep.
for $5, for $20, for
Or they go to
$300
a
a night.
game.
Yeah,
you're gonna
They
teach
can
them
join
that.
a
They
game.
can join
Absolutely.
games, start getting
And Diana says, the one who asked, is it better without a mom or a toxic mom? She says it makes you a different person both ways.
yes.
I will say growing up without a mom made me a better mom. This is Diana saying that. I'm not sure that would happen with a toxic mom. You do what you learn.
I'm sorry you grew up.
Yeah, absolutely. But I will agree with you on
that's
that,
hard.
Diana. I feel growing up without a mother is better than growing up with a toxic mother,
Somebody
even a
that's-
toxic father.
Somebody that's going to just screw your head up. So,
Right.
yeah. So I'm sure the guidance or whomever it is you have in the representative role as mom did a great job with you, because she's making good comments and stuff. So it sounds like you're pretty well rounded. So it seems.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My cousin did a great job. That's my
Okay. Oh,
cousin-in-law right there.
hey, cousin-in-law. There you go. Yeah, I'm part of this.
Yeah.
Parents can also create a bad atmosphere of tension and fear, and others feel they have to tiptoe around avoiding upsetting them. So when you have a toxic mom, if she's annoyed with you, anything that you say is an irritant for her, and she will and I read something earlier about her, parents that get mad when their kids try to talk to them. They get up, they slam cabinets, they curse, they walk out, they go, pay no attention to the child. And see, again, I don't think they know how to pay attention to anybody else, because if they are not the center of attention, they're not trying to hear that.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Yeah, that's
This.
Yeah, I know. Just get it out. You're okay.
This toxic mother thing.
It bothers you, I can tell.
Yes,
Well,
it does.
It's a very sensitive subject,
bothers you
even more so than
specifically.
the absent father.
It bothers me because I work with children.
I know.
I work with children, and I'm a mother of 4, and have 3 grandchildren, and I seen how my parents, raised us, and my father passed when I was 17 years old, so it had just been my mom, and we did as of, she didn't know how to write a check, we taught her how to do all these things, and so just to, top it on a toxic mother, it's like,
Something you can't fathom.
Exactly.
But it's real.
But it is
How
real.
many of the children that you've taught, and you teach what grade?
I teach 2-year-olds.
2-year-old. Okay, so
the baby.
are you able to tell any sort of activity that has happened in the home that has been brought forth to class?
Yes.
Tell us one story.
Oh my gosh.
And this has to do with toxicity, or just, I know kids see a lot now, even at 2. I can tell you one thing, and this has been several years back. I have a friend that was principal of the school, and the little girl was in the boys' bathroom. They were probably 6 or 7.
Right.
And so the little girl was on her knees.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all hear me? She was on her knees in front of this little boy.
Mm.
And so when that whole thing happened, the principal took her in the room and asked her, "What were you doing?" The little girl said, "I do what I see my mother do when she wants something." Speaking of toxic, and that's real. That was a real story. She said, "I did what I saw my mother do when she wanted something."
Wow.
So again, you have to be careful what your kids see, because that's toxic and that's abusive.
Yes.
It doesn't matter how young they are. The younger, the more, what's the word? Is it precocious?
Mm-hmm.
That I'm looking for? The younger that they are,
they want to know. They don't know.
Sometimes,
they're sponges. They're feeding.
When I first started working with children, I was only 19 years old, and this little girl, I believe she was like 2 or 3, and I just saw her as like, okay, what are you doing? And I didn't know what to do. What I was saying.
Oh, she was doing a sexual act or something.
Yes.
Yeah, these kids are
And I was like, oh wow, So I went to go get the director and everything, because it's like
that's way too much.
Like there was a lot of information.
These kids see,
right.
Kids see a lot of stuff, and it's not good.
And they do.
And you need
They really do.
The stuff you need to control as a toxic mother is control what they see and control what you do in front of them.
Exactly.
And a lot of times toxic mothers play mind games on these kids, but hopefully they will have someone, a parent, or a family member, or another parent, or someone that will look after them, some agency that they can get involved in. Like I said, there's a group called the Malicious Mother Syndrome, and it's a support group to help young adults who have experienced a toxic mother all through the years try to break away from that toxicity. And so, which is hard to do. And I think all of us could use someone to talk to when the time comes.
It's a huge step for you to even realize, hey, this is
my mom
not
is
healthy.
Dangerous. Yeah, my mom is not healthy.
She's hurting me.
Yeah.
She's not helping me. And even if it's not a certain group, if you're like Diana, she says she coaches girls, and she says she can definitely tell the difference. And she goes, I coach girls, so I see it. She doesn't need to be a part of a group. If she feels like there's a child there that speaks to her and she wants to mentor, by all means, people don't.
We need to start
go out there and do that. That's where we need to revert back to. It takes a village.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
That's where that comes from. It's like, okay, well, if they're lacking over here, they're lacking over there, but you can provide that. Why not go for it?
Absolutely.
If you're blessed enough to be able to do that, or to have that gift within you, please share
it out. Offer it out. Exactly right. I think we have limited time, so Carla Cortinas, to get it right.
Tongue-tied.
Okay, yeah, right. I need for you to read to us about gratitude, or something out of your book, actually, In the Hands of God. Tell us about In the Hands of God real quick before you read that.
Okay,
what inspired the book? And then we can go.
Well, actually, this happened way before my mother passed, and God just really just placed it in my heart to just write at that season,
time.
and just write prophetically, and just to trust Him in everything. And so this is day 17, and you can find the book on Amazon.com. And this is day 17. It's called Trust Him. And it says, "Oh God, my strength and my redeemer, the one who gives life and abundance. You have won all wars and battles. Victory belongs to you. In every trial, God never intends to hurt or harm us. He enhances, increases, amplifies, and strengthens our faith through these trials, so that our trust and confidence are completely in Him."
Amen. All God's children say amen.
Amen.
I appreciate that, because again, I think I'm getting a little one finger, but I got a minute. So based on that, we're going to talk to you next week about rocking your gray. A lot of women don't want to own up to and acknowledge that they are getting gray. And we're going to teach you and talk to you. I think I'll have a stylist will come in and talk to you about Going natural, rock in the gray. I mean, I stayed in the box till I was 50.
It's so much easier.
I know. And see, that gray hair is cool.
I'm not ready.
Yeah, see, a lot of you are not ready. But you might want to just give thought and entertain that show because you do have a lot of young ladies out here wearing
It's a
their hair
mentality.
gray. Yeah, and you have to get there. It's like nobody can talk you into it. You just have to wake up
You
one
have
day
to
and
have that
realize,
swag.
that's right.
You have to have that swag.
Yeah.
I want to rock that gray.
Right. Thank you everyone who has followed
Tune in to us
along.
next week.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you everyone who has followed along on our Facebook page. We really appreciate you, all the comments, all the suggestions. Again, our rotating chair is open, male or female. You can always give us a call at the studio, 713-789-0096. Follow along on our Facebook page at OMG and Friends, on our Twitter page at All About You Show, and of course on our website, www.allaboutyouShow.info, and that's the letter U.info. But
Took you a minute to get that out, huh?
all of it.
And we will see you next week on the radio. Remember, we're talking Rock Your Gray.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are not
You're not ready.
necessarily those of the Bridge of Light Radio and its staff.
It takes a while to get there.
It does.
Well, once you're there.